Today is Friday, the third day of Lent, and I'm going to talk about feelings, big feelings, repressed feelings. And it's hard for men to talk about feelings. I've sat with men in groups where they bring out this thing called the feelings wheel, if you're familiar with it. And I remember one of the funniest things I ever heard was like a guy say, like, wait, we have feelings? And then he was being honest. And this wasn't just some weirdo guy, like he, good dad, loved his family, served in missions. Like, I like, this is how bad it is for a lot of us men to share our feelings. But I think women repress their feelings very often as well. So to talk about an opening of the well of a lot of repressed feelings from my childhood that happened in November of 2022, I got to start in October of 2021 when I started to enter a Great Depression in my life. My daughter had told me that she was going to quit track at school and college, and she was going to get out of her agreement she had with the military. And I was really mad, not just because she was giving up something that I thought was really good, like she was literally getting paid to be in college between her scholarships and different things. I was mad because she was choosing a boy, and I didn't want her to choose this boy at that time. That's a whole nother story. Water under the bridge. The boy and I are not just fine, we're great. But I was not great. I was very sad. And I was sad about some other things too. I immediately went to heavy drinking because I had these feelings that I wasn't ever having to face in my life. Like I literally so mad I felt homicidal. And I didn't want to feel that. I didn't want to do anything. And I knew nothing good could come of it. But these were my feelings. So I took to the bottle and, moved over to whiskey and was drinking to get to sleep at night. And praying, God, take this from me. This is not how I want to feel. And he did. He took those feelings from me after a course of maybe 10 days. But I was still feeling away. Like I didn't want to kill anyone anymore. But I did despair of my life because something precious had been taken from me. And to compound upon that, I was in a relationship with an individual, and we had our first big fight after years of on and off relationship where it was usually kind of serendipitous. We had this big fight, and I remember we both looked at each other and admitted it later, like we looked through each other like, I could care less if I ever saw you again. And that was hard for me because I had decided the thing that would complete me in life was to find true love. And now I was looking at someone who looked at me with despising eyes, like, get this done, let's settle our stuff, and you move on, I move on. And so now I've lost my daughter. I've lost the person who was supposed to fill the void in my heart. And so more drinking. I didn't want to face the feelings. They were too much. Literally, sometimes when depression and anxiety hits us, it literally physiological affects us, right? I've had twice in my life, I've tried to take SSRIs just to get out of the darkest hurts and pains that just persisted through the day, like the sky above me turned to black or something. So let me move on. A lot of things transpired over that year because I was using alcohol to mask depression, and I was searching to fill the void in my heart. So recipe for a disaster. Oddly, not one that makes a great story. I didn't burn down the house and wreck the business and sell off all the goods, trying to maintain my highs or my usages to deal. I was actually using relationships, unhealthy ones, and I was using the alcohol, and it all kind of hit me in the face, literally in one sense, hit me in the face in September of 2022, and a couple of my really good friends who were upset with me for the things I'd become, but also wanting to see me heal, said, you need to stop drinking. This is your problem, is that you're drinking. And I was like, probably. My dad was an alcoholic. My brother was an addict. I probably an alcoholic. And so I was like, I'll stop drinking. And I stopped drinking that day. And another friend encouraged me to go to AA. And I went to AA and thought, yeah, this is it. These people are healing. And it's the damn alcohol. So I'm going to stop drinking. So at AA, I'm like making a list. What do I need to do? I need to get into therapy. I need to settle my household, get my kids back in. They were kind of floating around since COVID when they moved to Michigan without me to live with my mom. Like, I'm gonna get them back in my household. I'm gonna treat my business more like a business. I'm floating around, and I need to get serious and take on a lot of great jobs. We're doing great things. I'm getting my life together. So I made this list of how to basically fix myself and fix my situations. And I checked everything off pretty much. And about 6 weeks into being sober and checking off a lot of these things, there were still things to do. I'm like, I don't feel better. I don't feel better. I'm not doing the things I was doing. I'm making right wrongs. And something's not right. And I was working with a therapist as part of the agreement of ways to fix myself. And the therapist kept talking to me about emotional problems from my youth. And, she'd ask questions, get to it. And have you ever had bad sexual encounters? Like, yes, I did. I had multiple sexual encounters, but one key one was when I was 6 years old. Some girls in the neighborhood, for a course of time, would sneak me off into their little treehouse and do sexual things with me. And they were older. I think they were 13, 14 years old. But I never really made much of it because it didn't seem to affect me negatively. It did, looking back, steal from my childhood because it became very sexualized at a young age. And it definitely affected relationships as an adult. But I'm like, it's no big deal. I'm a boy, and girls molest. When I would talk to people about it, guys, sometimes they'd be like, that's kind of awesome, and I'm like, not really, but yeah, you're right, it's okay. It's not as bad as what a girl goes through being raped, or if maybe a male had done that to me. And so I guess, looking now, I can say I repressed those feelings. So what happens? My therapist says, I want you to read a book. And it's a book about boys being molested. And I learned all sorts of things about boys being molested. Did you know 4 in 10 boys are molested? And of those 4 in 10 boys, out of 10 of the 4, when you get to a group of 10, only one of them is likely to come forward and work it out therapeutically. Doesn't mean they don't try to come forward, but it means oftentimes the boy's told, hey, it's okay. Or it was a girl, dude, you're fine. And I know this because I've done this with certain friends in my life who have also been molested by girls and lost their virginity, 2 girls, and said, I didn't like it, but it's okay. And we kind of laughed about it. I laughed about it recently, even though I've been through what I've been through. But in November of 2022, I was reading that book, and the book is just a bunch of stories of boys telling their stories about being molested, oftentimes by family members or close friends of the family, where in my case, it was neighborhood girls, because maybe it is when you have a more secure family and the parents are around, you're trusted amongst other trusted people, family members, and those are the ones likely to molest you. Where in my case, no one was around, so the neighbor girls, I just wanted friends to play with. And I remember feeling sad when they left, when they kind of grew up out of it and probably found boys their age. I felt sad because these were my friends. That's why I went with them each day. But reading through the book, I don't know what happened exactly, but something got scratched deep down in my spirit. And reading the book, I would just have to put it down at times because I was crying. I was crying so much. Like, I sat in my room for 3 days on that weekend reading that book and just putting it down and weeping and weeping. And I will say, even though you'll never hear me say alcohol was my problem, not drinking for a couple months helped me because I couldn't go to the alcohol to make the feelings go away. So there was value to that. There was also value to the fact that the relationship I was trying to work out, I was told, we're done, it's over. And I felt rotten, so I couldn't get coping from alcohol, and I couldn't get coping from someone saying, I'm here with you, and just a touch, a hug, and I love you. I was alone. So I wept reading the book. And then for the next month, I cried a lot, and I didn't like it. I don't have a problem crying in front of people. I don't prefer to. I like to be in a safe space. But I've cried in front of people and lived to tell the story. But it's not, I don't like it when it's uncontrollable. Like, I would go to church and just start crying. And I'd want to leave the room because I didn't want people to come up and you okay? What's wrong? Like, just leave me alone. I'm just crying. I don't know why. I would talk to people about stuff that happened and I'd cry. I would talk to clients and start getting verklempt. I'd talk to friends, just strangers, and cry and cry and cry. And something happened in me that felt like I'd been healed. And I'd spent years praying to God to deliver me from the bad things I thought I was doing that were hurting me and hurting my relationships. Like, just make it go away, God. I don't want to do this. And I keep coming back to it. I was an addict, right? I couldn't give it up. So it felt like that was healed. Really. Deliverance. Which I'm not a proponent of. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm not a proponent of. Because it did last for about another month. But what happened was I didn't go back to drinking alcohol, but I did go back to trying to seek my comfort in relationships. And it started to break down. And that's the story. And honestly, even though those kind of things set me on a trajectory to get into group therapy, which meant kind of creating a group since there wasn't group therapy for someone with my struggles, because it wasn't alcohol, even though when I went to Alcoholics Anonymous and in their preamble they always say alcohol had become cunning, baffling, and powerful and unmanageable in my life. I'm like, something is. It's not alcohol, because I gave that up and things aren't getting better, but I don't know what it is. Something is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And part of the major healing in my life was just to face the feelings. But I started to repress them again by looking for comfort in relationship. And that was a mess. And really, it took almost another year to become desperate enough again to where I would go and seek God in a different way, not opening up my Bible, not getting into more things at church and going and doing good things, but I'm helpless. Do you hear me or not? Kind of moments with God, which if I continue on in the Lenten devotions tomorrow and maybe Sunday, I'll talk more about silence and solitude, but today it's just your feelings. And if you're watching, if this is hitting you, I guess I would just encourage you to start what's going to be a long, difficult journey and consider, are there things that happened to you, possibly in childhood, possibly in a past relationship? Are your relationships a mess? Do they always end up being a mess? Are you single again and sometimes you encounter people that seem secure and healthy and you don't want to be with them even though they seem like the best thing you could get on paper? Well, that's a great indicator that there's some feelings that you need to deal with because you have false securities. And the false securities came because you were wounded and you haven't faced the wounds. Therapists can help you, they cannot save you. Drugs can help you cope. They cannot save you. But facing the feelings, all I can say, if you face these feelings you've repressed, it's going to feel awful. And yet it's the pathway to freedom. It's the first stepping stone on a long journey of many, many stepping stones. But the freedom that I can speak to from that moment to now, almost 2.5 years later, the freedom's immense, even though it's not complete. My journey's not over. I have to face my feelings too. That's why I'm recording this video, because it made me contemplate, like, okay, you face some feelings, but what more feelings are you not dealing with? What things that you don't really like about yourself and blame yourself for and cause you to engage in behaviors that you think will make you happier? They don't. They make you sadder, and then you feel shame, and then you do it all over again. What kind of behaviors, if I'm going to free myself from wounding myself over and over and over again, I have to face the emotions, the feelings. So that would be my thought for you, is, did something get dug up? Maybe you need to hear some other stories from people who've gone through it too, to rehear yours, to stop telling yours with sugarcoating and see you were hurt. Because the healing comes from facing the hurt. And I could go so far into that. I'm not going to. I'm leaving it here. This is Feel Your Feelings Friday, 3rd day of Lent. God bless you.